Morning, sir. A couple of questions I wanted to take up today. One question was, I mean, not full-fledged questions, but some clarification of doubts. One is said that, who is Vinay? Vinay Varabhutla. Okay. The questions are these. One is, to whom do we associate interpretative anthropology? I repeat, to whom do we associate interpretative anthropology? Is it to Geertz or Turner? This is the first question that I am taking up. So, maybe I am addressing two people today. One is his set of questions. Purnima. There are certain questions about cognitive theory, so I will be taking them up. Good number of questions have come on dating methods, which we will be handling during the next week. Now, the first question is whether we associate interpretative anthropology to Turner or to Geertz. There are two very close fields within the so-called symbolic anthropology. See, all these names we come across in symbolic anthropology. As a part of that, we have one person called Geertz, the other we have Turner. Geertz is considered to be a variant within symbolic called interpretative anthropology. I think that was the question there. I gave you the reason here. Both of them are called symbolic anthropologists. If the question is symbolic, you will have to write about both of them. But his school is distinctly called, Geertz's school is distinctly called interpretative because he is making the observer, giving the role of interpretation to the observer. Is giving the role of interpretation to the observer. So, interpretative anthropology is that school of symbolic anthropology wherein the role of interpretation lies with the thinker, the observer. So, if you go into the details, you will understand there. When Geertz is trying to write about the cockfights, etc., most of the time he is trying to give his own interpretation, though he has certain feedback from the subject, from the subject. This is one. And there is this other question. He says, when Levi-Strauss wrote that language is used only for communication of what's there in the mind and the people of society don't question the grammar, etc. I repeat. His question is whether Levi-Strauss is using a functionalist approach when he is saying language is used only for the communication of what's there in the mind and people do not question the grammar. Sir, we don't call it functionalism. See, in the discipline, language is used differently by different people. When it comes to Levi-Strauss, language is a kind of expression from the mind. Why you are expressing your feelings, your ideas through that particular language, there's no answer. Maybe in the vocalization process, you started making some sounds and you started assigning a sound for some object. And then, in order to communicate to the other person in a meaningful way, you devised what a meaning is, what a meaningful way is, meaning that a sentence properly has to be said in this particular manner. If you are not communicating in this way, the other fellow is not understanding. So when Levi-Strauss is talking about language or anything for that matter, he is not using a functionalist perspective. Behind his mind, what is going on in the writings is, he is talking about how mind is producing reflexes. So it is all the mind game for him. Language is also one type of reflex. So different people have different reflexes in the form of variety of languages. And of course, from my side, these topics of Conklin and Taylor are pending, but because the question has come, what is a cognitive approach and how is it linked to socio-cultural anthropology? I read the question again. What is a cognitive approach and how is it linked to socio-cultural anthropology? You understand cognition? Cognition is what? What is cognition? Interpretation or mind's ability to analyze. और बताइए from the back, what is cognition? Comprehend. और बताइए. Awareness or knowledge. So certain answers that I got. One is awareness or knowledge. And then you said something? Ability of mind. Mind to do what? Okay. I bring it this way. On the face of it, the meaning of the term is it encompasses the ability of reason, the ability of thinking, and the understanding through language and classification. I repeat, when I say that I have cognitive skills or somebody is developing their cognitive skills, what it means is reasoning ability. And then trying to categorize things. Like for example, small fellows, when they are trying to differentiate between a circle and a square, so they are able to identify, classify things. So maybe when you are asking them what is a liquid thing, what is a solid thing, when they are trying to distinguish them apart, this is a combination of reason and then ability to classify based on some major characteristics. So that is one kind of a cognitive skill. Cognition is also refers to what kind of language you use to describe things. So it's a combination of several things that are associated with it. In a way, if I have to bring the whole thing to one small picture, you have schools of interpretative anthropology, cognitive, all of them are a part of socio-cultural anthropology. థాట్లో బొమ్మలు ఏంటంటే అలాగా. So there are certain intersecting points there. Cognition is a combination of language, how language is used in cultural situations, how you are training. So when I say training and culturation, that comes as a part of psychological anthropology. In the process of growing, you are learning certain things about language. So cognitive anthropology has a combination of linguistic skills, psychological abilities, interpretation, articulation, reasoning, and then somewhere it is leading to or linked to postmortem. So if at all we see in the order of arrival, cognitive comes first and then comes the postmortem. Classification in the sense, classification based on, say, usage of language, classification based on characteristics. When I say classification, an individual's ability to categorize people, categorize objects, categorize things. I don't know what classification you are talking about.
The three stages that they split the culture.
No, that's a very typical evolutionary way of classifying. I'm not talking about that. Cognitive, specially related to the individual in the first go, and at the most individual in a particular social context. So your cognitive abilities are special to your culture group. Your individual, characteristics are anyway there, but then they are special to your own culture group, because what you are learning within your own culture is your speciality when compared to somebody else from outside. So you are on a comparable line with the people within your own culture. So cognition is a combination of individual's reason, individual's ability of acquiring language, and his ability of classifying things, and his ability of articulating the social context, and all this he actually learns in the process of enculturation. That's where psychological anthropology. It is not necessary that for all the questions you start from 1947. Let me say it again. You anyway have to wait for the document. How different thinkers have tried to analyze cognitive anthropology. But here you'll have to keep in mind that most of the writings in cognitive anthropology are about the language interpretation and then ability to classify by the individual because of the enculturation process. So there it is a combination. How is it linked to sociocultural anthropology? Meaning the subject matter is something related to sociocultural anthropology. So that's the reason why we call it a part of cognitive. Sir, if at all somebody has to link cognitive, you can link very closely among all the schools that we have studied. The schools with which you can closely associate cognitive is structuralism of Levi-Strauss. Because that depends on the reflexes, that depends on the mind, etc., etc. And there's a lot of common subject matter there. But I would want to say one thing here. That is, a problem arose when people were using a cognitive kind of a study. They were trying to look at this, that one culture group is using a kind of language to express its own ideas. So if I'm calling an object an apple or a color blue, in some other language the terminology may be different. No, the question that came was, when the expression is one and the same, the meaning is one and the same, why is it that the same human mind have to come up with two different kinds of reflexes, two different kinds of languages? This is something that still is a puzzle. But then when people were going into the details of how ethnographs were being written, when ethnographs are being written, when the ethnographer and the field, they are from two different language communities. When you are getting information in one language, trying to report in the other language, there might definitely be a gap. Sometimes there's a gap. You also must have seen when, suppose you are thinking in one language and trying to write in the other language, the expression may not come so right. You are not holistically there. Because you must be able to recall this. In Eskimo, I said that there's a huge list of words to describe variants of ice and water. Or for that matter, the kind of seasons that we see in one geographical setting may not be applicable truly to the other geographic setting. A season such as a rainy season may not be really existing in the Arabian desert. So you cannot see that kind of a season there, so there is no word for it. But then when you want to express these things, you are having one kind of a data, one kind of a terminology, you are trying to write in your own terminology, there is a gap there. It is here that even if you are trying to write the same meaning, same interpretation from the subject, what you are writing is not exactly same. That's where people started to go into the details, postmodernism, whether you are writing. So once again, sir, to give a summary there. The question that was asked was, what is cognitive approach? Cognitive approach is nothing but that school of anthropology that focuses on the articulating capabilities, reasoning, linguistic skills of the people in a cultural setting and in the process of enculturation. In anthropology, it is linked to several other fields. That's the reason why it gained importance at one point of time. But then the problem that field had faced was that it could not explain why the same objects, same reflexes have to be expressed through different words. How was it possible for the same human population to devise different kinds of vocalizations to express the same things? That is a question for which answer is still to come. Different that is anyway accepted. That's behind the question actually. This community is responsible for whatever linguistic skills are. But the question is bigger. Why is it that two different communities have two different kinds of expressions? Meaning that why was it not happening that same kind of vocalization was happening for, say, an Arabian community and an American community? Same kind of words or same kind of expressions, in a way, same kind of a language. Or when you are giving importance to one kind of feeling or one kind of an emotion, others are not giving importance to that kind of an emotion. We are going to see the linguistic anthropology in some societies. Spatting on the other's face is considered to be affection. కాండ్రించి ఉమ్మడం అంటాం తెలుగులో లోపల నుంచి చెప్పాలంటే. Spatting on the other's face is an expression of love. But in most of the other communities, you know what it is. Or for that matter, slapping with your chappal. You cannot consider it to be a blessing in certain communities. It is, yes. So why is it that such a reflex variation is there, kind of thing? So several other examples I'll be mailing to you. Sir, yesterday you received something. All of you, anybody who did not receive? Those who did not receive may kindly write on a paper your email IDs and give to me. I thought that Mesolithic culture, did you read it and come? The idea was that maybe I should have added a note there that you should read and come. We'll just have a glance of it. This was something I had sent to you, a very brief time period. That was between Paleolithic and Neolithic times, a transitional phase. So man was moving from a hunting-gathering kind of an economic subsistence to agricultural-based economic subsistence. So technically speaking, in between you should be having somebody like a pastoralist. We have seen in that video some time back, Neolithic, a revolutionary one, because one of the attributes we have seen there was arrival of intensive agriculture. So it's the intermittent phase. Very short period rather, where you see the emergence of certain new things. You can actually keep reading that particular document back home. The meaning is that one obvious shift that was happening was climate, because of which life forms were changing, a story that we had been narrating time and again in the class. Because of the change in the life forms, smaller life forms emerging, the type of tools also changed. There is some word I have used there, broad spectrum collection. It means that they were depending on a wide range of food sources, maybe fishing, maybe gathering, maybe hunting. And then they also must have started the practice of the domesticating certain animals primarily for the purpose of consumption. The whole lot of things Bhattacharya calls broad spectrum collection. When there is a broadening of horizon, it's not that they were assured of food. There is always an insecurity. There is always a running around for food. And that is the reason why so many smaller tools that have emerged, so that they could address their requirements. So you can read all this stuff, whatever I was saying, I was writing there. This is a picture that you will have to learn the categories of tools there. Sir, here there is this term, microlith industry. These are the characteristic tools of Mesolithic that are categorized into geometrics and non-geometrics. Nevertheless, all the others were also existing. Pictures are also added to you. So you will have to be clear in the exam what the question is. Suppose the question is Mesolithic tools, you are going to write the entire thing. If he is simply asking microlith industry, you are referring only to that. Based on the geometric characteristic, that classification exists, geometrics and non-geometrics. It is also a vital thing, because if you are able to produce good number of geometrics, your articulation capabilities, your skill in manufacturing the tools is much more advanced when compared to somebody who is manufacturing some kind of a blunted blade. So you should have to see, when it comes to India, also southern region is known for one category of tools, north is known for one other category. So we would be surprised to see that somehow Vindhyas was becoming a border for everything. It's like two different nationalities, even in terms of tool typologies. As we go south, we are going to see more occurrence of geometrics. Maybe that is where mathematics and other science-related ones have been flourishing as you are going south. As you are going north, this. So you cannot actually imagine somebody studying a subject such as maybe a literature, something like a political science, down south. You are treated less than a bug here. Because most often the knowledge is measured in terms of you need not have to take strain and write down. I have already sent to you. అందుకే ముందు ఏమి ఇచ్చామో చూసుకోవాలి. ఏమి ఇచ్చామో చూసుకుంటే after having said to you that I am going to send something, you didn't see. You have seen that there is some mail, but you didn't open it. Even if you have opened it, you didn't browse it through. If there is something that you will have to closely look at, that is Mesolithic culture is divided into phases. So most of it I am taking from Bhattacharya when he says that there is a combination in the Mesolithic. This is such a small amount of time, but then you see a variation there. First phase was the emergence of non-geometrics. Then comes the geometric. Then geometry with the pottery, meaning that something else had happened here. Geometry with the pre-pottery stage and geometry with pottery, meaning that by the time you come here, you have learned something new wherein you started to feel the requirement of a pottery. Maybe that in between here, either you became a true pastoralist or maybe you started cultivating something so that pots become an essential thing. Otherwise you will not go for manufacturing of pot for a decorative purpose. I'm sure you won't do that. Decoration comes later. First essential thing, and then it's like first and foremost you should know what to write for the answer. Over and above the basic content, then you can think of what else has to be written for scoring more. Basic scoring is important first, and small microliths, etc., etc. Those things you would see back home. I'm showing them so that after going home you feel familiar. I was writing what kind of domestication of animals, hunting, agriculture, etc. Few other things out there. So आप घर जाइए, and अभी नहीं, wait for some time, and then you. So I thought I would add this also. Types of burials. Folded burial, extended burial. Extended is more than one individual's. It's like a lineage. Extended and body in extend cheyadam kaadu. Because when there is something called a folded burial. And then double burial. This is a popular one. Even in Neolithic you find. Even in IVC sites we find double burial. It's like, maybe the same thing was continuing in the early Hindu society with Sati. When he is dying, maybe when he died, maybe he requires her services after death also. This is one way of looking at things. Some people say that, maybe her security becomes a threat once he passes away. As a result of that, she is offered to the pyre along with him. But I take it the other way. Maybe after the death also he needs her company, her services, so you are sending her also along with him. But the only thing is the vice versa was not happening. When she was dying, he was not going into the pyre. I have no complaints with that. Those are the pictures there. So those things, I limited your trouble of writing in the class. There's no grand things to understand. I want to take you to Mesolithic of India. That is the size of the tool. You can understand the meaning of micro. So it may be something like your microchips there, smaller ones. So you are not the only fellow who invented and doing all those things. He has already done it long time back. Remember now, Mesolithic culture is an intermediary phase between food gathering and food production. So whatever things were required for a Neolithic time, they were occurring in this particular phase. Though Gordon Child says Neolithic is a revolution wherein we see the sudden emergence of certain characteristics, it cannot be so catastrophically sudden. Mesolithic was giving a preparation. It was something like a springboard. So that was the time period you anyway knew. More than the characteristics of Mesolithic, What we expect in the exam is the site details of Mesolithic India. So we are going to have a good list of sites. Maybe we will write about a few sites also. While you are writing down, you will have to focus on whether there is something related to worshipping patterns, emergence of gods, and then there is something, is there anything like a village? Because villages formally become a regular phenomena in the Neolithic. But are we able to notice them in the Mesolithic itself? Kind of things. And then there are a good lot of people. First you take their names. When it comes to Neolithic, we are going to have many more names. We will start with that writing exercise. James Carlyle, Cockburn, Carnac, Todd Hunter, and Gordon. It's only Gordon, not Gordon Child. Idedo baagundi kada ani fill in the blanks laga raayodandi. I was finding this the other problem. There was one objective type test that you had done. That was your first test. Second test you had written. Achyutsaham antam. When I was asking students to upload, they were uploading the objective type test also. That was for a self-evaluation. You need not have to. That's an unnecessary exercise. So whatever self-assessment based tests are there, you don't take pain of uploading. You only do with the rest of the ones. Technology undi kada ani vecchalvidiga vadukunte. Keep writing, sir. Mesolithic cultures of India. Mesolithic cultures of India. The Indian Mesolithic originated during the same time as in Europe. It saw the emergence of new category of tools mostly manufactured by pressure flaking. Mostly manufactured by pressure flaking. It is a practice where smaller flakes or chips can be removed by applying concentrated pressure at definite points on the core material rather than an indefinite percussion of the Paleolithic times. The first finds of microliths were discovered by James Carlyle in 1867 in the Vindhyan rock shelters. followed by the 19th century discoveries. The 19th century discoveries by Cockburn and Carnac. Todd Hunter and Gordon explored Mesolithic in peninsular India. All this data was systematically arranged adding the new field excavations by H.D. Sankalia. His first Mesolithic site of discovery was Langnaj. Those are certain sites which you can take down. I leave the responsibility of map making to you. Langnaj and nearby areas. Some sites I have written. I didn't complicate the rest of the ones. Bhimbetka, Adamgarh, Sarai Naharai, Bagor, and Kaveri River Valley. There's some more there. Burhanpur. Mesolithic is one where you are going to remember good lot of sites. The question is as such. I am not airing these videos in the class, but you do them back home, those CBSE videos of lithic cultures. Paleolithic we had done in the class, the small 2-minute one. They also have Mesolithic, Neolithic, some kind of a AV we had seen. Now, can I go? If you have finished inscribing. Those are the later categories. So most of these sites were excavated by 1980s. The second category had come, many of them during 1980s. Luni River Valley, Bundelkhand, etc. And then Nevasa, Sargion, all those places from Maharashtra. Adjacent to Birbanpur, certain other sites. Karnool, Renigunta, etc. from AP. And then few others from Maharashtra. By? No, not Sankalia. These are all the lists of Mesolithics. The first ones, they are the signature sites. Second category, these are the ones by 1980 they were excavated. This is the second category by 1980. We will get one more small list. Because see, when we didn't have, we were feeling bad that we don't have evidences. Where we have, we'll have to show. Generally, what do you do Saturdays? If at all you're not meeting me? చదువుకుంటారా? అవునా? ఏం చెప్పారు? ఆ విషయం తెలియక. So next week onwards you have tests anyway. I feel that very violent happiness when I prepare a paper and when I'm going to send to the institute. Zor se no send button jab dabate ho, it gives so much of happiness that see rest of the humanity is at your mercy kind of. And I know you also feel the same when you're writing. You are taking the teacher to the task. So we are all in the settling scores business. I could have sent these lists also, but I didn't want to. I know that you would never open it till eternity. They would go in history as fossils. How many books you must have purchased, never opened? God forbidden, I mean, once you finish your preparation for your relation with UPSC, maybe you got through the exam, maybe you didn't want to continue kind of a thing, one fine day, when you want to vacate the room, then you'll remember that, okay, so many books are there which I still haven't opened. Don't know what to do now. That's the reason why I say only if you are confident that you are going to study, you purchase, otherwise you don't. Why should unnecessarily the bookshop, the shop fellow and then the publisher be benefited? The same thing goes valid for the courses also. Just because your neighbor's friend is taking the course, you're not supposed to join the course. If not anything else, anthropology. Very dangerous. One other question that keeps on coming to me is, before last year I have taken, should I take it again? I feel very odd to see the same face in the class, as if I have committed some sin. See, you will come back only if you are not happy at that time. If you are happy, you won't come back. It's as good as the Karma Siddhanta of Lord Krishna. When you are there at one place, be there totally. Learn things properly so that you need not have to go back. Otherwise, it's like you are going back to your kindergarten because either you didn't do properly or your teacher was not good. Those are the latest sites. After 1990s, 1990 is the latest one. Because once in a decade, you will have the opportunity of having one dig. So, Mirzapur, Chambal, Bidar. So, you will have to remember these two names without fail, V.N. Mishra as H.D. Sankalia. Generally, you dig from top to bottom. So, there cannot be a site where you first discovered Paleolithic and then you discover Mesolithic. That will not happen. For example, the other class we were mentioning some sites where we said it was originally known for Chalcolithic, but later they found certain other things there. So, you come with the starting one. So, maybe whether I have understood your question. So if Mesolithic is there, and after that you directly find Paleolithic, is it that?
No, ma'am. So basically, Paleolithic is the lower one, right? Then comes so in the
Strata.
the strata first comes Mesolithic and then comes Paleolithic. So they are sites which have been excavated first for Paleolithic. They have found
वो होता नहीं जनरली, वो होता नहीं जनरली, because you will have to go from top to bottom unless otherwise something extreme has happened and such a huge shifting of layers had happened. The shifting of layers can be a phenomena between the interglacial periods. So within the same glacial period the shifting might happen, but not beyond, unless otherwise something so very catastrophic or so massive happens. ठीक है, फेलियर तो नीचे ही मिलेगा आपको.
So the Chambal region for lower Paleolithic which has been discovered, that has been after 1990.
Yes.
How deep are these?
And that is not, when I say Chambal, it is the huge lot of region we are speaking about. And it is also possible that at some places you find Mesolithic and then maybe Paleolithic, lower Paleolithic, or the intermittent ones you are not finding. There is a possibility of that. Maybe that after that period man must not have lived there. There is no rule that at the same place he flourished. So at one point of time he was there and then he got or shifted or migrated to the other areas, and then it's like your basic schooling was here, then you went back, civil services करना था तो इधर ही आना था, तो kind of a thing. वैसा. A few others will write about them. Keep writing, sir. Langnaj. Bone tools made of rhinoceros. Bone tools made of rhinoceros indicated use of non-lithic tools. Ivory was a rarity. Ivory was a rarity. Microliths chiefly of geometric type, such as trapezes, lunates or crescents. So lunate or crescent is that kind of a tool where you have this one. Trapezes, lunates, rectangular tools are found. The stone material of quartz and agate is frequently found. Keep writing in points. Pottery was completely absent. But burial practices along with grave tools were found. Humans were buried with the heads towards west and forearms diagonally placed across the abdomen. Number of such graves confirms intentional burial. There is one term that is right now becoming popular in anthropology called burial anthropology. I would want to share certain pictures and certain documents with you. God willing, UPSC also is in the same mindset as I am. Maybe you can also get this burial anthropology or grave anthropology, so that you have good lot of information. Actually, that particular field studies evolution of burial practices, starting from the earliest times till the very modern times, how things have happened during the early Roman times, and then post-Roman, and then Anglican burials, French burials, kind of things. So it's all an awesome thing. You have such a wide choice to read from. Keep writing, sir. Bhimbetka. With regard to Mesolithic sources, with regard to Mesolithic evidences, it provided rock paintings that became a controversy in the light of the European practice of rock art being an upper Paleolithic characteristic. Tools such as spears used for hunting were excavated with a strong evidence of cave living. Continue writing there. Unlike several other Indian sites providing evidence of cave living, Bhimbetka has an interesting phenomena, that is, the entrances of the caves have wind breaks maybe to handle hot breezes. Stone-made windbreaks, thatching of the entrances. Thatching, you understand? Thatching is you use some kind of a bamboo or some kind of a huge leaves along with a mud combination, so that you are, so when we say thatched roof, primarily you are placing the leaves kind of, in order to give it to strength. There is a possibility that you strengthen it with mud, so you are using mud so that you are giving it a life. So here in this particular case, different kinds of windbreaks are found in Bhimbetka. Actually, that is a surprise. Was it? It's like a architectural marvel for the man of that time, where you are actually living in the caves. But then, in order to curtail the strong hot breeze to come in, this is only once again a story that an archaeologist builds, because he has to give a story of why this kind of a windbreak is constructed there. Most often what is found is a thatched break, or at some places even the leather material was used. It is an inconclusive evidence why a man of that time was indulging in such kind of an activity. He should be technologically be ready for that also. Regarding all the other things, people have no complaints, especially the European archaeologists have no complaints. Maybe because at no European site this characteristic is found. So suppose they accept that the Narmada man or the Homo sapiens of Central India was indulging in such kind of an activity, Indian Homo sapiens would be placed at an advanced technological level when compared to. So this is all a nationality game, or pseudo nationality game. This particular thing has been, I forgot to mention this, somewhere on 24th of July, there was one conference held in Shillong by Anthropological Survey of India, that is about anthropology of northeastern India. That was 24th of July. You can actually go to see Anthropological Survey of India's website, and then there are certain things they are speaking about. Vaisebi, towards the end of your course, I should be giving the summaries of several conferences, including this one. But in the meantime, you just go through, because this is a special occasion where northeastern anthropology was discussed in a big way. I also would want to talk about it because northeastern region, especially Nehu, had been doing a woman's service for anthropology. They churn out books so quickly, so fast. But unfortunately, the books, as if there is a barrier, they don't market them so much. So most of the time you find the books about them in their own markets, own places. It's like somebody who intentionally would want to go and explore only for them. But then the kind of volume that they are manufacturing on an annual basis when it comes to the papers and books related to anthropology, it is such a huge one when compared to the entire Indian other subcontinent put together. आप ये देखिए, Anthropological Survey of India, Northeastern Anthropology, 24th of July conference. लिखिए, आदमगढ़ a strong evidence of domestication of 6 types of mammals, including cow, buffalo, sheep, dog, goat, and cat. You don't raise the eyebrow. UPSC, preliminary general studies, question was there. Which of the following No? These were the 6 earliest mammals that were domesticated. Keep writing. The site provided evidence of fishing. Provided evidence of fishing with harpoons and points. With harpoons and points. Come to the other side. Sarai Nahrai. Previous one, Adamgarh. Adamgarh, 2 points I told you, domestication of mammals. List you wanted. And evidence of fishing with the tools such as harpoons and points. Sarai Nehrai, the first major evidence of inter-group rivalry. Inter-group rivalry. The evidence was from skeletons with several long bones and skulls broken, and the presence of mass burials. Presence of mass burials. Then the South Indian microliths, though have a huge evidence of geometrics, there is a clear absence of lunates. L-U-N-A-T-E, lunate, otherwise called crescent shaped tool. Right down. Domestication of animals and construction of thatched settlements can be found in the Kaveri River Valley. Microliths of India are largely characterized by perfect symmetry, with the higher density of blade tools. The Paleolithic tools such as cleavers and crude hand axes were found along with the microlith industry, which raises a question of survival or coexistence of two different culture groups that are at different that are at different levels of evolution. Nevertheless, inconclusive. Similar to Mesolithic elsewhere, European Mesolithic stands as a transitional phase, stands as a transitional phase leading to large-scale domestication of animals, eventually leading to domestication of plants and intensive agriculture. By any chance, did you watch that video of Neolithic revolution that I had shown you in the class, asked you to go back and do it again? I know the question is redundant because you don't want to answer it. So we are going back to the same ideas of God and child, why Neolithic was a revolution. Maybe with site evidences we will be writing. That is a difference in time period. So we can boast off with that 500 years of difference. That's European Neolithic is earlier to the Indian Neolithic is earlier to European variant. West Asia, of course, is no match. So every time the same thing comes up to our mind. Even if most of the cultures are evolving through the same evolutionary sequences, the sequences are occurring at different points of time. Was it that the West Asian fellow was propagating agriculture to the rest of the people? Or how was it happening that the same Homo sapiens was learning the same things at different places, at different points of time? That is a puzzle that still haunts us. Or was it like there is one group of people who are going from place to place propagating the upcoming ideas? Those are the three prominent things: polishing of tools, domestication or agriculture, and pottery. Whenever agriculture exists, pottery should exist. It will be all the more clear when we go to Chalcolithic. Chalcolithic, we see that entire India, we find evidences of Chalcolithic. But of course, with this different time period. All of them have a commonality, that is pottery. But what differs is the material with which the pots are made. And what is the kind of designing that you are making on the pots. You remember in your school when you used to read history, so your NCRT or whatever textbook that you were reading, it used to have those pictures, red ware, grey and black ware or brown ware. ఏదైతే మనకి ఎందుకు, some pot was there. That was a big confusion, remembering them. And on top of it, at some places, blackware with interior painted white. మన కర్మ కాకపోతే వాడు పెయింట్ చేయడం ఏంటి? And then at some other site there is a brown ware but applique work done with black. Actually the basic soil is reflected in the pot. Basic soil is reflected in this in the pot. And based on what kind of, so next time when you read history, you can be much more wise and much more clear. You can look for these kind of points. The questions archaeologist was asking was it wheel first or pottery first? Was it wheel first or pot first? Was it wheel first, pot first? Without wheel can we make pot? Yes. Evidences are there, handmade pottery. You can identify handmade pottery because the hand impressions were there. So there is a conclusion now. Wheel came later, pot came first. And then the other thing is, in the manufacturing of pot, were they having this burning as a process? Because at some places when pots are made, you keep it in the urn so that they get hardened. If at all you are doing that, there is a possibility of change in the color of the pot. And based on to what extent you are exposing the pot to the heat, there might be layers in that. So you see that certain pots, there is a combination of red and black. It's not that half the pot they are making with black and the rest of it they are making it. This may be because of burning that happens. So there is one school of anthropology that is materialistic anthropology, that studies how this kind of various techniques are used in manufacturing of. Now, you'll have to take a small list of these people first, and then we will start making a note for you. Many of the names are very familiar to us. Gordon Child, our own uncle. Morgan, our own grandfather. The third name, I think for the first time we are using, Khuzanchi. Hanson, Taylor. This Taylor is not the old Taylor. James Fraser, we know him. Robert Brucefoot, H.D. Sankalia, Krishna Swami, R.K. Sharma, Ramireddy. R.K. Sharma, former IAS officer, and then he becomes an archaeologist and an anthropologist. So if you want to become one, you are not establishing precedences, but you are following the established practice. So in an answer of Neolithic India, all these names have to come. Remember, sir, I have delegated the work of drawing maps to you. So Mesolithic, when you are writing all those names of the sites, you should be representing in the map.
Boas will be
Ma?
Boas will be dealing with
Franz Boas.
He will be dealing with which culture? He is also involved in the archaeological anthropology.
అంటే ఇక్కడ రాయలేదనా, ఆయన ఇండియాలో పనిచేయలేదని. These are the thinkers who at some point of time or the other either have visited, had a field work here. If that is the case, you would be filling the entire book with the names. మంచి ప్రశ్న, మంచి ప్రశ్న అన్న. Can I start? Keep writing, sir. According to Gordon Child, Neolithic witnessed a transformation from a combination of hunting, fishing, and food collection economy of Mesolithic food collection economy of Mesolithic to agriculture and animal domestication It started it started with the beginnings of economic and social change, facilitating emergence of civilizations. For Morgan and Gordon Child, Neolithic brought revolutionary changes that were not sudden or catastrophic. The changes were gradual and were across the entire cross section of social and cultural fabric. It saw the reappearance of bigger tools, but were more sophisticated. According to Hansen, the salient features of Neolithic include, keep writing in bullet points, man became a food producer from a food gatherer. Secondly, he adopted settled living in sedentary settlements in the villages. Thirdly, he domesticated animals and plants. Fourthly, he manufactured new categories of tools, such as, we will look at them later, packed and grounded tools, along with a continuation of blade tools and microliths of Mesolithic. Fifthly, different types of pottery different types of pottery were produced, such as grey ware, red ware, black and red ware. Right in the next paragraph. The social system of Neolithic man. Social system of Neolithic man. Most of the sites of Neolithic are found on the mountain tops. Neolithic man leveled the mountain tops to establish settlements. He seems to have adopted community living with a sex-based division of labor. Wherein women reared the cattle and played a major role in agriculture. Preparation of ground, tool manufacturing, and hunting must have been the man's job. From the archaeological evidences, with increasing numbers of people and changing economic occupations, James Fraser believes that Indian Neolithic must have seen the emergence of chiefs and chiefdoms. This can be the beginning of economic inequalities described as primitive communism, right in quotes, primitive communism by Morgan in his book Primitive Culture. According to him, Neolithic was the beginning of private property and hence economic inequalities. and hence economic inequalities. Keep writing in the next paragraph. We are safe. We are safe, don't worry. The tool evidences, don't worry, even if there are thunders, you have people to hug nearby. Yeah? Tool evidences provide the Neolithic man producing cotton and bamboo articles. Bone points found in Western India, in an agrarian society, indicate use of them for non-fishing purposes. For R.K. Sharma, the points and uneyed needles still remain an unexplained phenomena. Nevertheless, eyed needles confirm clothing and sewing. Neolithic man produced canoes with the help of ring stones and chisels. Ramireddy categorizes, right in the next paragraph, Ramireddy categorizes tool typology and technology of the Neolithic into number 1, packed and grounded stone industry. Secondly, blade and microlith industry. Thirdly, bone tool industry. Come to the first one. Packed and grounded stones. Igneous and metamorphic rocks, particularly basalt, granite, quartzite, quartz, etc., were used to produce 4 different variants which are categorized as grounded tools by Ramireddy. Write the 4 there. Edged tools meaning the ones that are having sharper edges, maybe some variants of hand axes kind of things. Unedged tools, maybe hammering kind of tools. pointed tools, needles, eyed, uneyed needles, rubbing tools, maybe that's sarsen and stone. First you write the four, then we'll talk about them. Edged tools, unedged tools, pointed tools, rubbing tools. Alongside you keep writing edged tools. You have drawn these pictures, right? Edged tools, example is celts, which is a combination of axis and adzes. You remember? Can you draw? Can you draw axis and గాల్లో కాకుండా పేపర్ మీద రాయండి గాల్లో కథలు కాకుండా go back, you have already drawn in the class. It's not even a week ago. Redraw, that is the reason why I keep asking you to redraw. But my test is still pending. I have told you earlier that one of you will come and draw on the board. So maybe Monday we will pick up more number of maps. So first half an hour we will keep drawing on the board and carry some kind of rough sheets from now on to practice your pictures, maps. Okay, edge tools includes celts that are nothing but adzes and axes. And right on. Choppers, chisels. Unedged tools include hammers, ringstones, and battle axes. Right in the brackets there. The regions along coastal Gujarat and Maharashtra, two varieties of basalt battle axes are found. Continue in the bracket. One variant have sharpened edges, the other grounded or rounded edges. Both of them are called battle axes due to they being found along the sides, indicating interracial warfare. Sir, this region has been a puzzle. Gujarat, Maharashtra region, when we go to racial classifications also, that particular region has yielded racial characteristics that are not found elsewhere in the world, which is called the Scythian racial stock. So that's where Risley and Guha, they talk about Scythian invaders when they came. They must have lived here, they must have propagated and things like that. That is also the region where warfare is confirmed in the Neolithic times also. Thankfully, that is also a region where you find fossils where you can confirm belonging to different racial elements. Continue, finish in that bracket itself. Continue writing in the bracket itself. The interracial element is confirmed with the human fossil finds. With the human fossil finds. The third one in that list, human fossil finds, full stop, bracket close. Go to that list again. Pointed tools. Pointed tools include points and borers. Points and borers. Borers must have been used. Borers must have been used to work on the other tools. To work on the other tools, such as making slots. Rubbing tools include rubbing tools include polishing stones, or the stones used for pounding of rocks. The stones used for pounding of food grains. I'm sorry. Pounding of food grains. There is also a possibility. Of them being used for sharpening of the tools. Sharpening of the tools. Keep writing in the next categories. Blade and microlith industry. Blade and microlith industry indicates a continuation from Middle and Upper Paleolithic, and Mesolithic. But the blades of Neolithic were not retouched, though they were perfect in geometry, For Hansen, the use of a blade tool in an agricultural society has to be validated. It may also indicate coexistence of two different populations at different levels of evolution. Right in the next point. Bone tools such as axe heads, blades and points are extensively found. This apart, Neolithic for the first time this apart, Neolithic for the ante kaka అని అర్థం అనమాట. Neolithic for the first time provided evidence of use of copper. It shows that man of the time was looking for an alternative material to produce sophisticated tools. Keep writing. Though this phase was largely devoid of wheel, the site of a maski, M-A-S-K-I, the site of maski in South India presented an evidence of a wheel. But most of the pottery of Neolithic was handmade. Write a side head there. The Indian Neolithic sites. That is a categorization. Northern, Southern and Eastern Neolithic, those are the major areas. From the sites that are mentioned here, Burzahom was asked as an independent question in the UPSC. Remember the 3 sites. IVC is a copper bronze culture. Copper bronze cultural age.
The time is similar, 3000 BC.
By the time Neolithic was ending, this must have emerged. Neolithic is totally stone, but only a few sites providing copper. Neolithic is no match to IVC because IVC is a far more evolved culture. These fellows are beginning with agriculture. They had already produced a lot and went into establishment of cities. Keep writing. So let us start with the northern sites. Write down. Northern sites. Burzahom is considered to be a representative of North Indian Neolithic, and it was the first site of that region. But the same site was earlier. The same site earlier was excavated by Deterra and Patterson. As an Indus site. as an Indus site. The confirmation of it as a Neolithic site was done in 1960s. By Khuzanchi. You have written this name in the beginning. Okay, list రాశారు చూడండి. Keep writing. The region produced axis, adzes, pounding rocks, leave some space so that you will draw back home, mice heads, harpoons, eyed and uneyed needles, harpoon, Harpoon, eyed and uneyed needles, scrapers, and spears. Wheel was largely absent. With an evidence of handmade pottery. Pottery was colored and painted. With hunting scenes. Right in the next paragraph. The Gangetic region within the Northern Neolithic provided evidence of number 1, bone tools and microliths. Secondly, bone made ornaments. Thirdly, pottery that is black and red ware. Fourthly, settlements of man including pit dwellings and thatched huts. Fifthly, evidence of rice husk and charred bones of the cattle. Right in the brackets. The later might indicate burning of the corpuses of livestock or consumption of them. Sixthly, first evidence of wheat comma, which according to H.D. Sankalia, is an accidental occurrence, and not due to intentional cultivation. Lastly, Sankalia found evidence of, underline this statement, evidence of worship of snake, indicating beginning of a snake cult, He found terracotta figures of snake, in more than 4 sites. Coming to the second region there, Southern Indian Neolithic, South Indian Neolithic. We are writing about the first ever agricultural societies of India. Right on. Initially, the South Indian Neolithic was explored by Hansen and Taylor in Raichur district, followed by James Fraser in 1872 in the Bellary region. Bruce Foote analyzed the sites from Karnataka and Hyderabad provinces to establish a chronology and to conclude on the major characteristics. H.D. Sankalia studied the Neolithic from South Indian states and found that bone tools, adzes, chisels, and borers formed the major tools. Polished hand axes that are a characteristic of lower Paleolithic, coexisted. Muskie provided wheel And several sites of Tamil Nadu yielded terracotta figurines of a humped bull. According to Bruce Foot, Neolithic man practiced agriculture and animal rearing with a high dependence on stone that must have restricted his settlements to the hilltops, due to which he could not excel in intensive agriculture. Studies by Krishnaswamy in Eastern India, including Bengal and Assam, indicate that this region produced more sophisticated tools than the rest of India. For example, the first appearance of grooved hammer stone that is exactly similar to the modern hammer was found in this region. A huge variety of Eastern Neolithic tools were studied by Ramireddy with a classification into 6 cultural zones. This I will send you by mail, the entire Eastern Indian side. 6 cultural zones. The basis was both geographical location and tool technology. So kindly, when I send you the mail, East Indian Neolithic, you study it. This was asked in a different way earlier. Contributions of Krishnaswamy to the study of lithic cultures in Eastern India. Right now. The next paragraph. Biologically, ila kaadu, kashtam, right? Biologically, Neolithic period Biologically, Neolithic period was marked by Scythian racial elements, Scythian racial elements, along with Scytho-Dravidian, SCY, Scytho-Dravidian Of course, we still have to talk about them. There are various racial stocks. One is called Dravidian, the other is called Scythian. When both of them come together, Scytho-Dravidian. Right now, Scythian along with Scytho-Dravidian and Dravidian. In the western and southern India. This combination of racial elements confirms intermixture of races. Interestingly, it is also the region that produced a huge evidence of basalt battle axes and interracial rivalries. For Morgan, Neolithic laid foundations for the future intensive agricultural and civilization-based societies that is Chalcolithic and Indus cultures respectively. Full stop. Stretch. One I have to send you, that is Eastern Neolithic cultures. So I think in the next 1 week of time you are going to get good number of articles. Those of you who are writing the main exam, you will have to be really quick in finishing those topics. Have a good time. When I didn't finish still. When I will be almost finish your planner. You are very clear to what extent you would want to listen to me. We are, I think, in the 25th class today. 25th class. I had started with some bit of discussion on cultural theory called cognitive anthropology. There was some question there. And you had written about Indian Mesolithic and Neolithic cultures. Notes will be, source will be your mail number. You just check out in the mail list. That mail is about Mesolithic cultures. And secondly, your own class notes.